So we're taking it today to Toronto, Canada, chatting to Mr. Cale Sampson. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic, Mark. Thanks for having me on, man.
Well, great to have you on. We love your music. We've been busting that on the show. Just give us a brief bit of background about yourself and tell us what it was that put you on the path to making the type of music that you now make.
Okay, well, for as long as I can remember, I've always been a bit of a critical thinker. Ever since I was a little kid, I've always had a real kind of hunger for knowledge. And I was initially introduced to hip-hop at a very young age as well. I was about 9 years old. And fortunately, my initial influences were political and socially conscious rappers like KRS-One and Chuck D. And I remember seeing Grandmaster Flash's video for The Message when I was really young. So I started pretty much writing and performing right away. And I realized hip-hop's ability to communicate and to bridge different people and cultures together. And I'd say that my music really started to take on more of a strong political stance after 9/11 happened, when I was writing a song called The Facts of War. And when I was doing my research for that song, I started kind of uncovering a lot of information that even I wasn't expecting to find, which didn't quite fit with the so-called official story, if you know what I mean. And and then I kind of just quickly realized that when I tried to talk to people about some of this stuff, that it was pretty hard for them to absorb it just in conversations, or if I would suggest a book or a movie for them to watch, they wouldn't do it. And I realized that if I could put music to the information that I was researching and make it rhyme and add some flair to it, then all of a sudden the information was a lot more digestible for the average person. So hip-hop has always sort of been kind of the most effective vehicle for me to use in order to get this information that I talk about in my songs out there and to get people thinking more critically.
Yeah, well, your music's very clear, and the message definitely comes across in a way that anyone can understand. And other rappers in this subject area often deal with sort of tricky metaphors and complicated wordplay, the hallmarks of underground hip-hop. As a result, I feel the message may be lost on a lot of people that don't listen to hip-hop all of the time and don't study the art form and aren't familiar perhaps with some of the ways of putting things forward and the culture. Your style, by contrast, it strikes me, is very direct, very easy to understand by anyone. Did you set out with this specifically in mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think I did to a certain extent. I'm definitely not trying to make music for a strictly hip-hop audience.
Yeah,
I'd say that I'm trying to make more message-oriented music that can, kind of hopefully not only entertain, but also educate and inspire people from all walks of life, regardless if they listen to hip-hop music or not. And I can definitely do the complex rhyme schemes that you were talking about. And I used to focus a lot on flow patterns and metaphors. But I mean, if you listen to my first album, there's a lot of more sort of skill-based lyrical tracks on that one. But I think when you listen to my new album, The Big Picture, I think it's pretty obvious that my main motivation these days is really, to quote Dead Prez, I guess, bigger than hip-hop. So right now my focus is less about the actual musical genre that I'm in and more about the information that I'm trying to communicate. And because of that, I think that my music is starting to strike a bit of a chord with those who are seeking more of an alternative voice in music, not just hip-hop. And I think that it gravitates more towards an open-minded type of person who knows that something is not quite right with the world these days and who's maybe looking for a little bit of hope and inspiration.
Well, we opened one of our shows the other week with your track Reach Up, and it strikes me that that track in particular acts as an ideal sort of starting point for anyone new to the whole truth, conspiracy subject areas. Are you aiming to draw in people at the start of their journey rather than sort of hardened veterans, so to speak?
I would say that I try to speak to people who are aware of this information and who aren't. I mean, I do have a track at the end of my album called The Money Song, which is sort of an attempt to explain how money is created and to really try to break down the global monetary system as a whole as best as I can. And it's about 8 minutes in length. So I'd say that track is probably a little bit more catered towards somebody who's a little bit more well-researched and well-informed. But I mean, I also have songs that like Reach Up, as you mentioned, that are about a variety of social issues that I think most people are at least generally aware of. I have songs about consciousness. I have a love song that I wrote for my wife in an attempt to kind of create a little bit more balance on the album. I also try to make most of my songs have catchy beats and catchy choruses in order to try to draw the listener in to get them focused on the lyrics and the actual subject matter.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, really, I'm just trying to use my medium to spread information and to raise awareness and to hopefully create a drive within as many people as possible to try and change the world for the better.
The truth is that we need to open up our eyes so that we start to see all of the lies that we were told and we believed. Because the time has come to face reality and work together for the sake of liberty, so that our future generation can be free. We need to wake up and see that the truth is not what it appears to be. Truth is, the real reason for war is motivated by money and corporate interest. Rwanda didn't have oil, that's why the world turned a blind eye during its genocide. Truth is, corporations can donate an unlimited amount of money to a candidate. Democrats and Republicans are bought and paid, so government does whatever corporations say. Truth is, the president doesn't run the country. The people in charge are those who control the money, so the Federal Reserve's really more powerful than the US government, and they're running the show. The truth is that Goldman Sachs sold subprime mortgages they knew were bad. They also profited by betting they'd all fail, so they'd win either way and no one went to jail. Truth is, the financial crisis ain't solved. It was a big Ponzi scheme, an inside job where taxpayers bailed out the banks who caused it in the first place, and now they're still in charge. Truth is, money is created from debt. If all debt was repaid, there'd be no money left. But loans that are made have interest attached that doesn't exist, so we can't pay it back. Truth is, our banking system's a trap that leads to bankruptcy and collapse. It's why the states are 50 trillion in the hole, and this crisis is spreading all around the globe. Truth is, a crash is inevitable, cause our growing debt must be matched in the real world through the use of resources. So infinite growth on a finite planet is impossible. The truth is that we need to open up our eyes so that we start to see all of the lies that we were told and we believed. Because the time has come to face reality and work together for the sake of liberty, so that our future generation can be free. We need to wake up and see that the truth is not what it appears to be. Truth is, the CIA has a history of smuggling drugs into the States. The profits are then laundered through banks in order to help them secretly operate. Cause the truth is, they've been involved in things that would make people appalled, like mind control experiments on soldiers to alter their behavior through drugs and hypnosis. Truth is, Nazis were the first to try putting fluoride into the nation's water supply to dumb people down and control what they think, and now it's in almost all the water that we drink. Truth is, there's a chemical company called Monsanto controlling the food we eat by transforming everything genetically and then forcing everyone to only use their seeds. Truth is that the medical industry is big business with millions of employees. The last thing it wants is a cure for cancer, cause they'd lose trillions if there was ever an answer. Truth is, cures for cancer exist. Just look up Dr. Brzezinski in Texas, who's been curing people with tumors for years. The FDA and the government don't want you to hear. Truth is, you can't trust the TV news. It's pre-filtered to distract and confuse. All the outlets are owned by only 5 companies, so it's impossible to ever get news objectively. Cause the truth is, people need to wake up and expose how our whole system is corrupt. And if you think I'm wrong, go ahead, try to stump me. Let's see you write a song as smart as this to debunk me. The truth is that we need to open up our eyes so that we start to see all of the lies that we were told and we believed. Because the time has come to face reality and work together for the sake of liberty, so that our future generation can be free. We need to wake up and see that the truth is not what it appears to be. The truth is,
have you ever been offered the opportunity to sign with a major label? Because I would imagine that if you were, there would be a requirement to kind of change the subject matter that you deal with and make a different kind of music for the mainstream rather than the stuff that you've made your name on.
You know what? I've never been offered by a major label. When I was younger, there were some times when I was approached by different people within the music industry who definitely thought I had talent and who thought that they could probably make some money off of working with me. But to be honest with you, it just didn't ever feel natural to me. So those relationships never worked out because I've never been motivated by money. I've never been motivated by any of the other artificial, materialistic things. I'm not doing music for any fortune or to be popular. I've never really cared what people think. For me, it's just always been about staying truthful to, you know, my original intentions from back in the day, and just trying to use my music as a platform to connect with people, like how we're doing here. So, you know, I'm more than content nowadays to just keep building my own home in the underground and to keep amassing a community of true supporters from the ground up, and to just keep doing on the business level alongside my wife everything independently, because at the end of the day, you do get to keep pretty much 100% of the profits when you're running your own operation, and you get to maintain creative control over your work, and most importantly, you get to keep your artistic integrity, which we both know is what it's really all about.
And what about radio airplay? Have you got much radio airplay for your music so far? I would imagine, again, it's not the sort of thing that mainstream corporate radio stations are going to want to put out there, but I'm thinking maybe college radio or internet radio or some independent stations.
Yeah, I mean, mostly the mainstream commercial radios stay away from it, which is fine with me.
I wonder why.
Yeah, exactly. But it actually has done very well on college radio. It charts really high in the top 5. So the album is getting a lot of play on campus and college radios and on the internet, obviously. Yeah, so it obviously mainstream shies away from it, but there's a tremendous amount of support in the underground radio scene for my last album and this album as well.
Okay, let me ask you, what are the artists, and these can be hip-hop artists or non-hip-hop, and they can be living or dead, the artists that have inspired you personally and that have really affected the way you make music, and are there any of the living ones that you'd particularly like to collaborate with?
That's a good question. I would say that some of the artists that have inspired me would range from Bob Marley to definitely Bob Dylan when he was young. But, you know, really nowadays I'm kind of less inspired by other hip-hop and music artists, and probably more influenced by authors, by documentary filmmakers, by, you know, people like yourself, Mark, anyone who's not afraid to stand up and speak the truth even when it's not the most popular thing to do. So I'd say my main inspirations right now would be more sort of current day alternative thinkers, people like Abby Martin and Michael C. Rupert and David Icke and Max Egan and you know, Gerald Celente. There's really a lot of influences. And in terms of the second part of your question, for artists that I respect and who I'd be down to work with, obviously Immortal Technique comes to mind. Kanon. There's a guy from the UK called Low Key.
Oh yeah.
But really, in terms of collaborations, I generally just prefer to work as a solo artist. I'm more kind of open to collaborating with real sort of like-minded difference makers on a real level, so that collectively we can try and make some tangible, positive social change happen, as opposed to just sort of rapping together on a song, if you know what I mean.
All right, Cale, great to kick it to you today, my man, and thanks for your support. I know you're a big fan of the show, and we definitely appreciate that, and keep doing what you're doing with the music. I'm sure you will.
Thanks a lot, Mark.
All right, man, take it easy. Peace.
The sound of freedom. The sound of freedom on The People's Voice.